Happy Sunday, cuckolds! It's your boy the Hater with another banger of a video for all of y'alls. Today's video is going to be based on an article that I read. So, as many people know, several WWE female superstars have gone on to do OnlyFans accounts. Now, let's analyze this for a second. The first one was Mandy Rose. I think she got fired for it. Right? Like, I think she started an account, and then WWE's like, this doesn't conform to our, to our standards, and you are fired. And she's like, all right, go fuck yourselves. And then she went on, did whatever she does on OnlyFans, and apparently, the rumor has it that she's made life-changing money, right? More than one could ever make in bullshit like WWE. OnlyFans and things like that have completely changed the game. Other social media also has, like YouTube, you know what I mean? Like, the Hater can now work a little bit less because he knows that Google check is coming for the Hater channel, right? But obviously, these broads, her and like the Cora Jade girl, who I don't even know what she looks like, but her and Cora Jade's like the next one that's gonna do it, you know what I mean? She I think she was just fired, and she was like, all right, I'm just gonna go do this, right? And this is something that I think, for better or for worse, motherfucks, depending on which side of the spectrum you find yourself in, this is now a viable and lucrative path for young women. It's as simple as that, you know what I mean? And a lot of people have an issue with it. Now, the Hater is going to preface this rant that I'm about to engage in by saying that personally, the Hater finds this kind of stuff morally reprehensible. That's just the Hater though, man. If you want to go spend money on OnlyFans girls like a weirdo, be my guest. The Hater ain't really going to judge you, As a matter of fact, the Hater knows several guys who have engaged in this kind of behavior. I personally find it to be destructive and unproductive. And on the other side of the equation, the women that go on OnlyFans, in my opinion, you're debasing yourself, right? But their argument is one that has merit. And that's the good thing about the Hater. The Hater sees it objectively. I'm not going to just sit here on a moral pedestal and say, look at all these tramps for doing this. You know what I mean? Even though personally, like, if the Hater had a daughter and she did that, I would be very disappointed. You know what I mean? But the reality is, motherfucks, that the world is different than it was even 5 years ago, even before the pandemic. The reality is that, once again, the economics of this country and the global economics have pretty much ruined everything, right? The way that capitalism works, and the Hater is a fan of capitalism, but I recognize its shortcomings. The way that capitalism works is through the concepts of supply and demand. And the reality is, there is really no demand for people to work anymore, right? A lot of people out there have meaningless jobs, and they make relatively low amounts of money, right? Like, for example, a personal assistant might make 45, 50K. I don't know, to be honest, right? A lot of people don't make that much money. Now, 50K is a good amount of money, but it's absolutely nothing in comparison to the millions that Mandy Rose has likely made just by taking shots in a bikini or whatever, showing herself having sex. I don't know what she's doing, right? But the fact of the matter is, it's a really tough sell to go to some girl who's making millions of dollars on Instagram and OnlyFans and things like that and tell her, hey, you should have more respect for yourself. And with that respect comes a hefty paycheck of $45,000 a year. Good luck, right? That is unacceptable. The reality is that a lot of people are severely underpaid for the work that they do, commensurate to the purchasing power of the dollar. It's as simple as that. Things cost a lot of money. The Hater just went to the grocery store. I bought like 5 apricots, 5 avocados, and 2 bags of cashews, and it was like $37. You know what I'm saying? Which is fine, but a lot of people can't afford even that much money for actual groceries, let alone like what can best be described as snacks for the Hater, But the fact is, a lot of people do have issues. And it's a really, really hard sell, like I said, for society to be like, don't you want to respect yourself? Yeah, I do. I'd like to respect myself, right? But I also like to eat some apricots up in this bitch, And that's the problem. Nobody really sees it. Nobody sees how much people are struggling. The Hater is not going to sit here and start telling you, woe is me, because the Hater, thank the Lord, is doing just fine. You know what I mean? But the Hater knows a lot of people that aren't doing just fine. Life's hard out there, motherfucks. Things are getting expensive. A lot of people can't afford to buy a home. The Hater considers himself very lucky to be able to do so. You know what I mean? But most people can't afford to do that. And it's getting worse. If you're like in your 20s now, it's going to be worse for you than it was for the Hater. And just like it was worse for the Hater than it was for, 1 or 2 generations ago. So young people are finding ways around this, right? And some of these ways have old people a little bit upset. Now, again, the moralistic element is what it is, right? The argument that the OnlyFans people make is rather straightforward. Their argument is, well, I'm going to debase myself anyways, right? I mean, is it any more debasement? Like, you could easily make the argument that if there's like a hot girl like Mandy Rose, right? And she just stays home, gets a nice camera, takes some pictures showing her ass, like wearing like a swimsuit, right? Yeah, that's a little bit humiliating, but is it any more humiliating than going to work for 12 hours a day and have someone yell at you for $40,000 a year? I don't know, motherfucks. I'm not exactly sure. And even if I think one is more noble than the other, it doesn't change the facts. The facts are still the facts. And the facts here dictate that it is completely reasonable for someone to choose the OnlyFans path. Now, how does this relate to wrestling? Well, in the context of wrestling, there's going to be always attractive women in wrestling, right? At least to some degree. And furthermore, these attractive women can use wrestling as a launching pad, as a career platform to get into other lucrative fields, right? Usually, this was like some wrestler is going to use WWE to propel himself into Hollywood, right? But now there's an easier path if you're a hot girl to go and propel yourself into OnlyFans, make a shitload of money really fast, set yourself up and say, peace, see you later, motherfucks. You know, and a lot of people, if they haven't thought of this yet, they're going to start thinking it, right? If you're some like low-level wrestler, right? If you're like whatever, the one that got fired, the one that was partners with Lash Legend, I don't know her name, but like they made a big deal about her signing to like AEW or TNA or something. Like nobody knows who the fuck she is, right? But if people do know who the fuck she is, right? You know, she's a cute girl. She can just go show her ass on OnlyFans, make a lot more money she's going to make taking bumps off of ladders. You know what I mean? So think about that, right? Why would someone take the shitty proposition of, hey, hold on a second, I'm going to like be thrown off a cage onto like a barbed wire table, right? And I'm gonna get like $1,000 a week for this? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Why the fuck would I do that? Travel, hurt my body, you know, like be on painkillers, God knows what, right? Die an early death. Why? When I can just take 2 years of my life, you know, show everything I got, humiliate myself for 2 years, you know, and then I'm good. So I think a lot of female wrestlers are going to go down this path, right? Especially the ones that are crazy attractive when they realize that, like, wait a second, in WWE, I have to wear flimsy, like, for example, Tiffany Stratton is an example, right? Not on the attractive part, but I'm sure she would do well on OnlyFans because there's a lot of weird people that really like her, right? But they pretty much have her come out dressed like a whore anyways. You know what I mean? So what's the difference? The only difference is she's cutting out the WWE who's making money by having her dress like a whore. She's like, I'll just make all this money myself, give a cut to OnlyFans for the platform that they afford me, and I'm good to go. You know what I mean? So why would she like dress like a whore and also be thrown off a cage when she could just dress like a whore, right? You see what I'm saying, motherfuckers? This is going to be a very lucrative platform for people that have the ability to go there, right? And I can't fault them for it, right? If you want people to choose morals over money, well, you can't be living in a money-based society, right? Where your value is determined entirely on how much money you generate, right? Because if those are the rules, then why wouldn't a hot girl take advantage of her hotness to generate money? Just like why wouldn't someone like the hater take advantage of the fact that he can speak and make points about wrestling to make money off of it? Or why wouldn't I take advantage of the fact that I'm smart and make money in my real job using my intelligence? Why wouldn't I, right? We don't look down on people like that. We always look down on people that have rare abilities, right? Hot women are rare, right? Freak athletes are rare. And a lot of people do the same thing to athletes. They're like, oh, this guy should just like, you know, stay in school and become a dentist. It's like he'll make more money playing one NFL game than he will in his career as a dentist. Of course, he's not going to choose dentistry, right? And that's just how it works. If we value dentists more, dentists should make more money. But we don't. We value hot people and we value people that can entertain us. That's pretty much all that's left. Everything else is going to be taken over by AI at some point. Hopefully not in our lifetimes, but at some point, it's going to come down to people that can make us laugh, entertainers, things like that, right? And even that is being compromised by AI. So in the context of the modern day American economy and also the global economy, like holding someone back on a moralistic proposition is not sufficient anymore. You know, We hope that people have morals, and we hope that someone can start out maybe as a secretary making 40,000, and one day that young lady can be a CEO of something and still probably not make as much as an OnlyFans model, right? Our priorities are screwed up, you know? Part of this is the fault of women who are willing to sell themselves, but a lot of this is the fault of like what the young kids call simps, right? Of these type of men who are such losers that they're like, I'm gonna go message her and have a conversation. Like, fucking weird motherfucker. You're being used and you know it. That's the worst part. It's like you're being used and you know you're being used. You're being strung along for money, but you're so stupid and naive and quite frankly thirsty that you're willing to overlook this, right? This is an example of complete moral and societal decay. And quite frankly, we've brought it upon ourselves. So, this fake outrage that I'm seeing of like, why would they do this? Like, there's people out there who are like, why would Mandy Rose do this? She's a talented wrestler. Because Mandy Rose doesn't live her life with the explicit goal of entertaining you in the way that you want to be entertained. Her goal is to make money, and she realized, due to market economics, that she can make a lot more money doing whatever it is that she does on OnlyFans instead of going out there and being thrown off of steel cages by, like, you know, fucking Jade Cargill or so, or like Piper Niven or some other strong broad. You know what I mean? Why would she go through this? You know? Why would she sacrifice herself, right? And that's when we get to the internal debate and the eternal debate as well of the value of art. Right? Some people consider wrestling to be art. I personally don't. It's a form of entertainment. And the facts are this. If the audience for wrestling was bigger, and if Mandy Rose could draw more money on something that has nothing to do with her sexuality, right, then she would obviously choose to do that, right? If someone can draw more money being strong than they can by showing their asshole, right, then they're going to make money off of being strong. Like Brock Lesnar, for example, right? I don't know. Maybe some women would be into that, but I don't think Brock Lesnar's OnlyFans would be as successful as Mandy Sax's, you know what I'm saying, or Mandy Rose's. See what I'm saying? But, like, I'd rather see Brock Lesnar fight, so he's going to make a lot more money doing that. This is just how it works, right? But overall, this is a massive negative for wrestling, right? It's a massive negative for the WWE as a whole, because now you're going to get used by these women, right? And it's a completely fair relationship. I'm going to come here, give you a couple years of wrestling so I can build my profile. So when I do build my OnlyFans, I'm not just some hot girl, right? Because Mandy Rose is obviously an attractive woman, but like if she was nobody, if she was like a complete nobody and she did that, like she would not have the success she has, right? There is a significant subset of people who are like, oh man, Mandy Rose, I remember her. You know, I'd like to see her naked, right? In fact, I think that's pretty much like the business model of OnlyFans, right? The idea is like regular people can have it, but I feel like, for example, if you know you went to school with somebody and like there was like the hot girl in school and you find out she has an OnlyFans, right? Like I don't give a shit that the hot girl in your school has an OnlyFans, but you might, right? People care about these things because people want to see what they're not allowed to see. And that's kind of the point. The point of OnlyFans is, look, this person, you knew her in the context of being a wrestler. And look at her now. Now she's naked. Now you can even talk to her. You never had a shot before. Maybe now you do. And the reality is, this is like a massive market for a reason, right? The fact of the matter is, people, like there's a lot of simps, especially in things like wrestling. You know what I mean? We've tried to do this in the sanitized way. Like we have like Cameo where you can go like and have, I don't know, Mike the Situation from Jersey Shore, like give you like a 1-minute message about how great you are, right? The market of that is going to be completely different than a situation where you can go pay less money to see Mandy Rose naked, right? You see what I'm saying? Like the economics of it are our fault, right? We've created a society that values sexuality and beauty over other contributions, right? And this is not inherently bad. This is just how it is. This is the logical conclusion of capitalism, right? And again, the hater's not a communist. I love capitalism. But, you know, we do need some sort of controls, right? These things are, quite frankly, destroying our society. And somebody has to take some role to say, like, wait a second, man, maybe we've gone a bit too far. But that guy ain't the hater, and that guy ain't any of you. I cannot tell somebody how to live their lives, right? WWE cannot either. They tried, but now it's to the point where it's like, yo, like it's no longer like a dream to be in the WWE. There's many other ways to make money, right? Like, I'll give you a great example. One of the haters' favorite UFC fighters is Demetrius Johnson, right? Demetrius Johnson, in my opinion, is like probably like, he's probably number 2 after GSP as like the best fighter of all time in UFC history, right? And I find Demetrius Johnson, for those that don't know, he was like a bantamweight champion or some shit. He's like a little guy. He's like 5'4", like 112 pounds, right? Doesn't matter, right? He's exciting and he's awesome. Now he has like a YouTube channel, right? Which I think is going to one day like give him more earnings than his fight career, because I believe that despite the fact that Demetrius Johnson is an incredible fighter, I believe that his career in broadcasting is going to be much more lucrative. That's what I think, motherfucks. You know, I feel the same way about Daniel Cormier, who is a commentator in UFC. I think when it's all said and done, he's going to make more money as Daniel Cormier, the talker, than Daniel Cormier, the fighter. There's plenty of examples like this, right? Like Tom Brady, if he continues to do the NFL stuff, his next contract might be per year more. Michael Strahan, who hosts Good Morning America, or who hosted it, like I'm pretty sure he's already made more money doing that than he did in the NFL. And he's a fucking legend. You know what I mean? So the point is, there's a lot more money to be made with a lot less effort, and more importantly, a lot less drawback, right? Tom Brady made a lot of money in the NFL. Pat Mahomes is going to make a lot of money in the NFL. But in order to make that money, every couple of plays, Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes have to get plowed down by a 450-pound Samoan, like a real fucking athletic Samoan, not Jacob Fatu, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to get destroyed. So it's like, where the fuck would I do that? I'll go into broadcasting. The problem is, nobody gives a shit about what Michael Strahan and Tom Brady have to say until they become Michael Strahan and Tom Brady. See what I'm saying? And that's what the WWE's role is going to be. It's going to be the role, it's going to be the playground for future OnlyFans models. Right? That's all it is, you know? And that's their own fault, you know? That's their own fault. You've played yourself, right? You didn't listen to people like the hater. You didn't listen to common sense. The whole point is, you got to pay this woman a lot of money, right? And you have to have them do things that are respectable to a degree, or if they're going to debase themselves, you got to pay them a shitload of money, right? And they have to also generate a shitload of money. You see what I'm saying? That's how it goes. The economics of OnlyFans are just absurd. So there you have it. I mean, how is this going to impact wrestling? I mean, I think it's going to bring it back to how it used to be, right? Fewer women, and quite frankly, shorter career spells, right? There's not going to be that many women out there that are like going to be like, you know, Charlotte or Bailey or Alexa Bliss, who've been there for a fucking eternity. They're going to be like, oh shit, I can make a lot more money doing something else, you know? Now, the hater hopes that he's wrong, and the hater hopes that there's, you know, a subset of women that are just like, you know, better than that, I guess you could say. I think it's hard to morally judge them, but the hater would hope that there's women that are like, look, I want to entertain people, but not like by getting naked, right? Because quite frankly, the issue with that, I don't even think it's a moral issue. It's more of an effort-based issue, right? It's like, if you're a good-looking woman and God made you that way and the plastic surgeon helped along, like, it doesn't take any skill to take off your clothes, right? But it's a very lucrative proposition. That's why people historically have disliked prostitutes, right? Aside from the fact that they break up families and all that other shit, and they spread disease, at least back in the day, people dislike it because it's easy, right? But that's the problem. Society hasn't controlled for this. They haven't corrected for this easiness, right? Society makes it like impossible almost to become like a medical doctor, right? You have to be like a slave for the first 40 years of your life before then one day you can make $400,000 a year, which is obviously a lot of money, but Mandy Rose can make that in like 2 months in OnlyFans. You have to work 40 years to do it. She just takes off her clothes and does it. And people, as a result, don't respect that. But I also think that as a result, people resent that as well, right? People don't like the fact that there's people out there that have talent to make easy money, right? That's why you see people all the time being like, athletes should be paid less than they are. You know, like, athletes are exceptional people physically, right? They're born that way and they work hard. But a lot of it is talent. It is innate. Right? Like Shaquille O'Neal, for example, who is obviously one of the biggest athletes of all time, right? It's like, you can work as hard as you want, but it's going to be really hard to become Shaq, right? Shaq was made that way by God himself, motherfuckers. He's a massive human being, so he's going to have massive human being abilities, right? And he's going to leverage those to make a lot of money in the NBA, right? Shaq is also cool and charismatic, but that's not here nor there. The point is, someone like Shaq is going to take advantage of their abilities, and we still look down on it, right? We still say like, oh, why are these athletes so overpaid? Gee, I don't know, motherfucks. Don't watch sports and they won't be overpaid. If nobody gave a fuck about the ball going into the hoop, then Shaq would be poor, right? Or he'd have to do something else, you know, in his career. Maybe be a teacher. Who the fuck knows? Imagine that. But the point is, we haven't corrected it, right? Society hasn't said, wait a second, man. We are now in a situation where we have like prostitutes, and this is the most lucrative option for women, largely, is to be a prostitute. For men, they don't have that same luxury because nobody gives a shit. But that's like, I don't even know why there's people that decide to be like actual porn stars. You know what I mean? Like, what would be the point of that nowadays? Back in the day, it's like, all right, it's easy money, but it's not as easy money as being an OnlyFans model because fundamentally you cut out the middleman. Like, OnlyFans takes their cut and that's it. They don't manage you. I mean, I don't know, at least. I don't know anything about the intricacies, but I would imagine that you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? If people are willing to pay for it, it's like an open market. And open markets, free markets, are great, but they're also negative, right? Especially from a moralistic point of view. We're not going to take that view because it's not our job to judge these people, right? And quite frankly, I totally get it. I completely get it. You know what I mean? Same thing, motherfucks. Like, you think if, like, The Miz, like, you think if the, let's use The Miz as an example. You think if The Miz had, like, an actual opportunity to be a Hollywood A-lister, he would have stayed in WWE? No, he fucking wouldn't have. He would have gone and been a Hollywood A-lister. Like, if Miz could command like $50 million for a movie, $20 million for a movie, he's not staying in WWE and getting paid like $1 million a year. You know? Like, it's a no-brainer, right? And WWE sees this. They see this trend. That's why we get people like Jelly Roll in here, right? They're like, oh, the time of wrestling is done. We now have to kind of pivot to this like multimedia situation that is predicated upon people's popularity beyond wrestling, right? In my opinion, this quote unquote hurts the product, meaning that our like passion, our hobby of wrestling is going to get worse and worse. But c'est la vie. Nobody corrected for it and nobody's doing it. I will finish by saying this. The hater has recently become a massive fan of Bare Knuckle FC, right? BKFC, motherfucks, which is a bare knuckle. It's like boxing with clinching. It's boxing. Bare knuckle boxing. And the owner of Bare Knuckle Boxing, who has pretty much grown this company from zero to like being almost like $500 million of valuation, he gave an ownership stake to the people that contribute, right? This was seen as a massive big dick move to show that like he cares about his employees. But it's also an attempt to put them in some sort of investment where now they have an interest in this company doing better in perpetuity. So for example, you take someone like Mark Henry, right? Like Mark Henry, I don't think Mark Henry gives a flying fuck if WWE like does better than he did last year or not. Why would he give a shit? He's not in the company anymore, right? Or if he is, he's in a Legends contract and that contract is guaranteed. So he doesn't give a fuck. But if Mark Henry, instead of getting like a Legends contract, was given like, not 1% because that's too much, but let's say he was given 1% of the company. Now, he's like, 1% is worth millions. You know, he's going to be like, wait a second. Now, hold on a second, motherfuckers. Now I want this company to do well. I'm going to promote it. I'm going to like do this. I'm going to do that. And that's going to be the future. So if you have a skill, get to it. Otherwise, get ready for a bleak future in America, motherfucks. I hope everyone works hard and makes their dreams come true. But until then, go fuck yourselves.